Yeah. No, let me just get that going.
Where's my notes on it? Yeah, this YouTuber Wes Roth is really good in terms of timely information. He seems to be putting out 2 or 3 videos a day on, the very latest, and he's seems to be an intelligent guy. So I picked that up from him before you sent over that link, and he's got a reasonable first hash at what they're producing. The interesting thing is nano. I don't know if you've how far into it you've looked. I've generally only looked at the their videos and this guy's assessment of it. But it seems that they're going to be producing a reasonable, a reasonable shot at it on a phone, which is very interesting.
Yeah, and plus Google has that tensor processing unit chip architecture that they've had for a while now.
Yeah, the TPUs, is it
Yeah.
TPUs?
TPUs.
Yeah.
So I mean, they have been AI first for a long time. Like they have actually
Yeah.
been hitting that for a while.
They seem to have dumped everything on the market all at once, or was it 13th of December, isn't it?
Yeah, they just
Um,
this alpha code thing seems pretty good.
yeah, um, yeah, that's one of the videos I was looking at. I mean, who knows? I mean, these are like marketing videos, right?
Yeah, who
But
knows? But it's sort of started to give me this strange feeling that like when I'm coding an artifact now, it starts to feel like I'm coding for the AI, which is a different kind of a. Before we were trying to target for developers, and now we're trying to target making it easy to code for an AI. Is a different, very,
oh, that's
it's a
interesting.
different kind of
That's
game.
interesting.
Because I just
Yeah.
spent half an hour refactoring a bunch of variable names to help the AI get better error messages. And before it was taking like 3 shots to get something right. Now with an error message that I modified to favor it, it gets it in the first error. It's like tries a thing, error message, oh click, next thing. Now
That's
that's
interesting.
it's approximately the same for a human. Like a human will benefit
Yeah.
from these error messages too, but this seems to bring the usability higher up the design loop, because it's no longer just I have to wait till some devs use it and then hear back from them, or they hit an error or they file a bug and then I'm like, oh, that was a stupid error message. It's sort of right, it's a lot faster, and this is what I mean about being able to exercise the system. We could like Android's got this tool called I forget what it was called. It's like Crazy Monkey. It just like spams your app and just sees how far it gets through the app. We can do that with Artifact, where Hal can sort of Crazy Monkey the thing, and then we can appraise the error messages and the errors that are generated to cycle back in to update the code documentation or code
Yeah.
structure.
I'm a big fan of Crazy Monkey. I used to do that with cable pools. Used to be brilliant. And, the that feedback loop inside of alpha code seems to be quite important, because I think on the first pass they were getting 48%, but on the second pass they
Yeah,
were
that
improving
was 85%
to
better.
87. Yeah, there is. So that second pass seems to increase now. No doubt there's going to, there'll be some kind of point where now these percentages, of course, are compared to the 1,000 coders, the test that they did with real people.
Yeah.
So there's going to be diminishing returns on that, but that's pretty good on
I think what's key is if you can design the framework to favor AI coding, it's better because as soon as you start getting reasonably complicated in the code that you're expecting anyone to write, things fall apart. And that was really the design goals of Artifact, were to be simple for developers. We can immediately extend that and make it simple and usable for an AI to code. That actually makes it much more likely that we'll get a good result. And one of the key differences I'm sensing between making a framework for an AI versus making it for a human is that humans are very, very lazy, and amongst all their other bad traits, in that they find it hard to write tests, and they don't want to expect the labor to write tests or exercise a system, but the AI can do that tirelessly. And so a human system would be like, maybe you spend 50% of your time writing the system and 50% testing it. For an AI, you would want maybe 90% testing and 10% coding, because it seems to be having a very high ratio of tests for the AI is a better quality output. For a human, humans don't do that. They just don't code like that.
Yeah, it's well, as you know, the worst thing possible is get someone to test their own code, right?
Pretty much,
yeah. It's actually pointless. But with an AI, it doesn't really give a shit.
So that was sort of what I took from this, was actually that, yes, there's more coming. This will probably be closed source as well, because they all seem to be. Things like Llama showing us that, you can actually make these reasonably small LLMs that are open source and can function quite well. But most importantly, a framework that was designed for any AI to code, along with a combination of evaluations that we make, means that we can not only evaluate our system, but also swap out the LLMs and have an appraisal board of how each LLM performed against our tasks separately, as another layer, like another dimension to the testing framework.
Yeah.
Because what that means is that we can, first of all, get our costs down. I mean, our OpenAI costs, sure, we're just developing, but if we deploy this to a reasonable sized company, they're going to be running about maybe 20, $30 a day, which is sort of high for your compute cost. But, we could bring that down to, say, 20 cents if we chose the model right, chose a good model that still gave a good eval output.
Yeah, right. And it comes down to the assessor again, really. This assessment idea.
Yeah.
You've got, your general output, and then you've got a separate AI that's saying, is this the best way of doing it? And if you have a number of runs, and some of the this stuff was, on Gemini, we're talking about 10 runs which go round the loop to try and improve.
Right.
If you can understand after the first 2 or 3 and compare 2 or 3 with different models, then yeah, for sure.
Okay, so we're just keeping an eye on that. If we can get a version that runs on a phone, that means that we can get a version that runs disconnected. And so we can deliver on an offline distributed system that can also have LLMs attached to it, which is a fantastic thing. Okay, the other piece I wanted to cover was this slide deck that I found, which is remarkably interesting.
Distribute all the things? Wow, that's very similar to what's that phrase used back in the day?
Blockchain all the things. That was
something
old.
Like that. Yeah.
It's now NFT all the things, and now that's progressed even further. So, this guy I think you'll like, because he's talking about the nature of systems when it comes to distribution, and he uses a lot of military background type of analogies. So he's talking about how Normandy was had a form of distribution, talking about emergent properties and systems being a governing force.
Oh, I like him already.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
But the reason why I found this was because of I actually the link I was supposed to send you was KBucket. This is what I was actually meant to send you, which was this overview of a Kademlia KBucket is a good way to. You were asking about DHTs and how that would fit to the vector space DHT. This here describes how it works in quite good detail, and in fact, I'll maybe look at using this code as like a sort of a start for a prototype, just to demonstrate or hit some of the inherent difficulties in making a vector space DHT. But it was from this system that he links to this slide here and talks about the different kinds of things that you can get out of a distributed system. And so that's sort of why I wanted to pass it on to you, because I think there's more to it than just a DHT is what is the principles that this guy's getting at. So yeah, it goes on to some extremely detailed demonstrations of how the bucket storage works, and then how you can basically assemble a toolkit of.
Was that a Merkle tree or is that something
else? That was how the bucket worked, but it's very similar to a Merkle tree, except that it has a concept of buckets being full, and so it splits buckets when you get to a certain high water mark.
All right.
And then he's basically building up the primitives of networking here, and I just thought you'd really like it, because this is one of the things that I conceptually butt heads with you about, is that there's no center in our system, and there's no center in a company like this, or in a fabric like this. And so understanding how you can still get some of the aspects of central control in a system that has no central control and is intermittent, this is maybe the best example I've seen of how you can build up those types of system properties that you desire whilst building them on a distributed foundation.
Cool.
Yeah, so it's
that's very cool. That's very cool.
It's quite a good find, and he calls out to the Scuttlebutt implementation. The guy that wrote Scuttlebutt is actually down in Hamilton. Funny enough, it's like 150 k's away, so I might go for a drive and see if I can meet him. He quit Silicon Valley and went to become a sailor or something down there. He lives on a boat. Yeah, I don't blame him. Right, so anyway, it's just a whole lot of how you can do different things. I think you'll find this fun, and then he's talking about the things that we can do with distributed systems, which are a lot of the attributes that we were originally trying to hit back at Interbit with the distributed properties, but now we've sort of added this GPU compute notion in there as well. But it seems like the GPU compute is going to expand out to be more than just GPU. It's going to be like exotic compute, like TPU or those other chips from OpenAI.
Neuromorphic.
Quantum would be easy to plug in, because we can just sort of put a wrap around the public offerings of quantum services, and then you're just using the same programming language with the same AI-driven driver that can now make some quantum-powered questions, and sort of tie it all back into this framework. Just for the record, I actually don't have any use for quantum calculation, but that's
it's niche, but it's interesting enough. It might be not to be overtaken by events.
What do you
I
mean?
don't have it to send over. I can hunt it out, but I was looking at a paper that was suggesting that maybe AES had been already compromised by AI. So quantum was all the big fear on quantum was around cryptography,
Oh,
and
that's just one of the fears. I mean, I think that
yeah,
when I look at the size of the computation you need to do for these AI models, surely they can be enhanced by some kind of a quantum calculation as well, because it does
yeah.
it specializes in probabilities.
Well, exactly. But this paper was suggesting that AES already what they're doing is using AI to search math space in order
Right.
to probe
Yeah,
where the
that's cool. That's
the
really cool.
problem is, and yeah, it's like if it's actually true, then we're all fucked already. So yeah,
It's probably been true for a long time, actually. But yeah, I mean, it's basically about plugging as many different features as we can into this the artifact model, so that it can be coded for using AI. Like if we can provide an API that gives access to some quantum calculations, and HAL is given good documentation on when is a good time to call on a quantum resource, then it makes sort of that type of thing more accessible too, because
yes,
knowing
very
when
much.
you should
Yeah,
call quantum is a hard enough thing anyway. Like your problem needs to be very narrow already, and so figuring out how to get your problem into that space is hard enough, and we can provide assistance with that.
that's really interesting.
Yeah, because there might well be
Because
some times when there's a
yeah, I
quick
mean that's
fix.
available at the moment.
Yeah,
D-Wave already got an API, and they give out tokens.
yeah, it's
And
pretty
then you
cheap.
pay for them.
It's
It's not bad, is it?
Yeah, the
Yeah,
D-Wave API is it's cheaper than doing it with a classical CPU. That's for sure.
yeah.
Um,
But I guess the things available now is that there's a point here. That switching between so what is the most I'll say this word again, parsimonious. What's the most parsimonious way of carrying out a goal, an intent of Dave? And if it's easier with GPT 3.5, if it's cheaper with Gemini, if it's hugely cheaper with D-Wave, then
hmm.
that is actually a really scalable thing
Oh, right. So the
because
goalie would actually choose your LLM based on a range of
right,
parameters. Yeah. Okay.
right, exactly. So
Right.
if
Right.
Dave asked, I'd like to fold, I'd like to see all possibilities of this protein folded in order to get this output. It's going to go,
Hmm.
D-Wave, boom, okay, and it'll probably cost you a couple bucks.
That is interesting. That is interesting. So it acts like a. I think we can sort of clarify our positioning in the marketplace if we can offer multiple LLMs to be consumed up front, so that you get the idea that we're here to glue them all together. We're not actually here to be
Yeah,
one. We're here
yeah,
to glue them and appraise them all, and then present it as a single sort of a thing, as opposed to
right, a single surface,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
And because I think
a
uh,
single surface just in time. I think that's the
yeah, it's pretty uncontroversial, but there's going to be an AI war. Okay, so Gemini has just come out.
yeah.
GPT is doing its own thing. There's it's almost like now the solution is known. It's not that hard to replicate it. All you need
That's
is
right.
dollars.
Yeah, and you can guarantee there's spies all around the place. I mean, look at how long it took Russia to get a bomb. You know,
Well, that's yeah,
OpenAI is
yeah,
1,000 strong. You can't tell me that there's not like a bunch of leaks in there.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
there's
anyway,
no.
I think being
Yeah,
positioned as a framework is a safe place. There's going to be like a lot of dangerous places to be in the coming change, but a framework that can from day one can present multiple LLMs to achieve goals for users,
Right.
is sort of the safe place to be, it seems.
Yeah. But interestingly enough, it seems to me that our framework of Dave Howe, the goalie, guardian, ruler, AI nodes, all the way down, seems to work regardless of what substrate we're on.
You mean what LLM you're on?
Exactly.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'll flick back to this thing here. This is demonstrating network behavior in the face of net split, and it shows how things can replicate, and then the net split's removed, so the healing process begins. And then there's like saturation issues, like the network's overloaded, and then how to sort of have nodes back off a bit so that they're handling less data. This is a fun bit, talking about clustering the network. This would be like clustering around different goals or different goal spaces. So you'd end up sort of rallying around somewhere out there. It's like a centroid, like the cluster centroid would cause the computers to move towards it.
Sorry?
The cluster centroid. So if you have all these points in vector space or goal space, they'll form these blobs. And the computing machinery will be attracted to those blobs because it's simply trying to be of service. And so the network topology will start to follow the vector topology.
Neat. That's really neat.
Right? And then you start to be you can end up with very high performance coming out of each individual cluster, because if you're regularly here, like all the nodes around here will be quite tightly available. So even though goal space is infinite, the network will very quickly coalesce into a recognizable form that gives you sort of a type of a performance experience that you're used to with a centralized service, I think. Are you there?
Hey,
Welcome.
No idea what happened there. Just got kicked off.
Internet. All right. So anyway, it just goes through clustering and talks about how you can. It's basically the principles of artifact that we've sort of looked for all this time.
Oh, you've been talking about sort of thing for ages when we were
Yeah,
talking
but
about
it's in a nice compact place, and we can sort of just decorate the top of that with, distributed LLM access is sort of all we're really saying. It's not really that big a leap once this part is packaged. Yeah, anyway, that was that.
Yeah, very cool.
Anything from your side?
Yes, although I have to say I'm actually suffering from this fucking virus.
Oh, right. Do you want to give it
I'm not sure.
give it a rest then?
I'm not sure what you said.
I do need some help then, if you can.
Yeah.
So here's the goalie. It appears to go pretty well. Are you saying that? Hang on, I had another one. I want to buy a dog. Purchase pet, buy dog. Alright. So this is hooked up directly to the goalie. This is currently running under one thread. Are you saying that I should take the goal that was generated by goal ID, where goal ID is given first? We got goal ID 0 and 1 here. I then take that goal, make a dedicated thread for it, and then run hell.
Yes, that's close to taking the previous session, or the session that started with. Okay, so if you think about the transition, you want to buy a dog. Now you're talking about a fat dog. The change from the previous session, I can't remember what it was, something to do with the girl, was a different topic. So what you want to do is, as soon as there's a significant trigger change of topic, goal, then that deserves its own, and it needs its own session in order to not be printed with anything you say. So if you said,
okay,
I want a
and
girl.
Now what I'm going to put in that session is I would put in this thing, the opening prompt. I would skip this. I would skip the goalie output. And then I would put in Hal's output. And then the next time I call the goalie, do I submit Hal's output as well? I think I do, right?
Yes, you need to.
Yeah, I do. So I attach Hal's output to the goalie thread. Then I put in the new prompt and then call the goalie thread.
Yes.
And then that will mutate the goals of the system. And then depending on what priority 1 is, I then load up that session, whatever priority 1 was, in an isolated clean session, and then I insert the user prompt again.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now, do you think I need to include the function calling that occurred in the dedicated session? I can probably skip that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
There's something here I was actually thinking about. I'm sorry, man. I'm really fucking tired.
Let's not push it then. I should.
Well, let me give you a really half-arsed whiteboard thing. And apologies if this is hard to understand.
That's all right. No problem.
Okay, there's. Oh, can you take your thing off? Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, here you go.
Right. Okay. So when I was thinking about the goals, so there is there's a switch that's not only the top level goal. Shit, is that not working very well? Okay, so you got top level goal. Let's say holiday, and then it's it'll come back with something reasonable like destination, which would be the your top level goal for this is where do you want to go. Now, what I was doing previously last night was working out, okay, let's go somewhere hot. Okay, that's great. Do you want beach? And this is the action. So, hot is a goal, holiday is the goal, beach is an action at this point. And you might also want to say city, if you want a hot city or whatever. Now, at this point, you've still got the idea of a holiday, but you could also say cold. And then it's like ski, mountains. No, the thing I had a hard time last night getting it to do is maintain this goal and understand that there are sub goals that are incompatible.
Like to not tear down the whole stack and just keep the
right.
Basically,
so
you wanted some sort of a stability score to be maintained. Like you wanted where possible use the current path has more weighting than all the other paths. So when you go to choose, you should try and choose something that exists already,
exactly. So when I was talking about session, you can see the session is all this,
right.
But if you go from a goal and well, I can actually show you live on the laptop. We'll do that in a second.
Yeah.
If you say I want to book a holiday, okay, what's your destination? What's your budget? That's fine. And you go, well, I want to do hot. Okay, it's a beach or a city, and then you go, yeah, actually, maybe I could do cold as well. There's two things here. The overall session is one thing, but when you're talking about hot, you want to maintain this session. When you're talking about cold, you want to maintain this session, because otherwise these two bleed together. Now, the point of that is, I guess, a question about how to do this is sessions are not the unitary blocks that I was thinking about before. It's not that you can, the goal is now holiday, so let's refer to the session that talks about holidays. That would be straightforward enough, but you get quite quickly you get bleeding between these two. There is a session and a subsession which seems to be largely based on goals all the way down.
I think you just need some sort of a weighting and almost like an impedance on switching. The higher up the tree you go, the more sort of penalized you should be for switching. Like it should be sort of sticky.
That's exactly what I was trying last night. So what I was saying is, once you've established the goal, switching the main goal is hard.
It should be hard.
And switching a sub goal is relatively easy based on,
it needs to know when there's been a major goal shift. But that should be expensive. Like, it should really have to work to be able to recognize that there's been a complete shift, because most of the time that's not what happens. Like, the user is not a complete maniac. The user does try to maintain some train of thought.
Yeah, exactly. And if you think about this as a conversation, if I were to say, let's talk about Lam, Rob, and Josh right now. Okay, so the mental effort of moving from talking about how to structure AIs to how to make Lam, Rob, and Josh, quite a big one. You could probably say, don't use Fennel.
Maybe that should be like the first score. Like, the first thing it does is really think hard about, is this a goal switch?
Yeah, it's almost like a trigger level. It's like, is this worth it?
Yeah, and when it triggers, it needs to trigger cleanly, but you kind of want to somehow try really hard to make it fit what you've got already.
Yeah, exactly. So if I was to say, okay, you've been talking about holidays, I'm talking about a curry, and now I want to talk about hot curry. What I don't want to do is have it talk about...
Right, you don't want to go from talking about curry to talking about the beach. Yeah.
Now, I got quite far last night. I went further after that last thing I sent you with the buckets, in terms of trying to get that triggering level sorted.
Yeah.
I think it's to do with if you have the rule I gave it was, if you have a goal,
right,
you maintain that goal. If you have a sub goal, which I always called a goal, which is logically linked to the previous goal, then fine.
I think I got it. What you do is you make it work backwards, stepwise. So you're like, a new prompt comes in, and say you're down here. You're like, does it fit this one? No. Okay, one up. Does it fit this one? No. Okay, one up. So by making it work backwards through the pathing...
Oh, that would be quite good.
Because then you heavily favor, just because of the way your searching is going, you're favoring making it very expensive. By the time you get to the root for a complete switch, you've already done like 1, 2, 3 times the computation. Right now, it's
because
if you take
if you take how people usually major context switches are rare. Where minor context switches are more probable. So, for example, if we were to talk about going on holiday and so on, we're talking about skiing, talking about mountains, maybe we talk about going to Iceland. That would be less of a jar.
Yeah, like it's like the dissonance, the price of dissonance, like making it work its way backwards one step at a time. And then once it gets to somewhere, work its way down as well. So you're down here talking about skiing in the mountains, and you go, I want a hot curry. It'll go, curry no, hot, yeah, beach, no, okay, back, okay, goal switch. Right, so you make it walk back, and then try its darndest to walk back down. Like, it would prefer to walk down something existing, but then that I can give you that as a map structure. So every time it runs, I can insert the goal tree as a structure, like what you've just drawn on the board here, and then it will know to walk each branch back, and then try to walk down the next one before ultimately at the root is the only place, it would have expended a lot of effort just to get to the root.
And the interesting thing is, of course, at some point, Yeah, it's not working. It's not working.
It looks like you're. Yeah.
At some point, it does a major goal switch.
Yeah. But it doesn't. But it has to have walked back to root to be able to do major goal.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas right now, the way you'd set it up, it could do major goal anytime.
Yeah.
But
yeah. And probably get it wrong.
Yeah. Walking.
Talk about hot and curries and holidays.
Yeah. Walking is a good way to introduce dampening to the system without telling it to. It's a way of implicitly making it damper, as opposed to telling it to trying to tell it to damper, because that's frustrating.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly. And the sysprompt is seems to be really straightforward. It's
right.
like
right.
So I'm talking about so this is goal. These are the actions. So I'm talking about cold holidays, and then if I say what we're going to eat, for example, it's like cold holidays. It would perhaps prefer to create a new sub goal about restaurants in the Alps.
So do you want me to make this map structure in it so that this is part of the functions that are returned whenever the goalie runs? It gets a map of all the goals broken down like this.
Yes.
So it'll be a map. It'll be a map that ends with the goal ID as the leaf value.
No, the action is the leaf.
What?
So these, remember what I was saying yesterday? The distinction between goals and actions. So goals are the intent based on the session. Actions are the anticipated next thing.
So I can ignore these.
Yeah.
Because these can flutter all around the place.
Yes.
Right? Like they're not worth noting really. They're so dynamic. But if we ignore the actions and just stick to the goals, if I give you a goal map that looks like this, but each leaf in the goal map ends with the goal ID, then I think you'll be able to implement the walking.
Yeah. And it'd be easy enough. We start with your current goal, and does Dave's input make sense in terms of that? If not, go up to the previous goal. If not, create a new goal.
Yeah, I like that a lot. That's it's like implicit. It makes it implicitly costly to switch.
Yeah, which is similar to a conversation, right? This is how people talk. It's dissonant. If I was to suddenly talk about,
Yeah, I mean it's autistic to jump around the place like that.
Exactly. People like clustering of ideas because it's an easier way of. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I'll add that map so that you'll see it in the state. So when you do when you do cat, you'll call cat, and then that will dump the state, and in the state will be this map, and that map will give you the goal IDs as the leaves, and so you can use that as the input whenever the goalie runs.
Well, this is something I was going to ask actually. Is cat is the hierarchy of cat allows for a hierarchy of actions, right? So further you get down, it determines exactly what actions you can take.
Right.
At that point. How does the hierarchy of goals act for that?
Well,
because goals are around intent.
I know, but
actions.
Yeah, I was hoping we could make a map, a connection between each goal and each object in the file system, because actions aren't objects in the file systems. They are properties.
Those suggestions.
Well, the properties of the object, they are like what you can do. And so HAL should take the functions are hard coded, for want of a better word, but see, HAL can take an action and make up a name that is context dependent. So just because in Artifact the action name is add, and it's like add a new holiday, HAL could easily call that go skiing because it's add with a bunch of parameters in a way that makes sense to the user. So so these things are transient and are sort of generated on the fly, depending on whatever context we find ourselves in. What's underneath them is a set of concrete actions that are system level, artifact level, that can be called. And then these objects, I think these objects are file system objects that represent, like it doesn't fit here though. That's the issue. There's some types of goaling that don't fit, but you could imagine like a holiday app that would be like having these kinds of arrangements within it. But I don't know if that means that we need to code those objects differently, or if there really is no strong link.
I disagree.
Because when you think about the CRM, you go add customer, that's definitely the CRM object, then the customer's collection object within that, and then the add process happens there. So in that application, the link between goal pathing and file system pathing is strong.
Yeah.
But here you're almost in this weird kind of an ideation phase where you're not.
Yeah. Okay. Allow me to. I disagree slightly. Well, actually, I have no idea whether this is slightly or a big disagreement. So, there's. Where's my thing going? Okay. There is. Remember, I keep on saying that I've been struggling with the idea of intent, grand strategic, tactical.
Mm-hmm.
So the intent. Oh shit! This is.
I'm gonna have to go in about 10 minutes.
All right. Okay. What we're saying is, you've got, simplify it. You've got the goals, and then you've got two types of things. You've got further information, which is like, what kind of curry would you like? So, question mark, beach. What kind of beach? What kind of city?
Right. Which is sort of like you're questioning which directory to change into next.
Correct. And then you've got action. Book city, which is like, right, okay. I've got all your intent, your goal. You've got all the info. Now there's an action here. So there's a substantial difference between the leaves on this. So we've got the question marks here.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, what kind of beach would you like? I don't know, black sand, white sand, whatever.
Right.
And then it's like, make up your mind now. Book, do something.
Yeah.
So in that search space, or in this hierarchy, we've got the original goal.
Yeah. It's annoying. Like sometimes it fits well, and other times it doesn't belong at all. So what do we do with that?
Keep working at it. I'm not sure this is the right way to. Well, this idea of you're asking for more info as part of that goal.
Okay. Well, look.
I'm not sure that's right yet.
Why don't I just I'll go with I'll add this map in. Now,
well, what I'm confident to say is the hierarchy of goals is correct. So a goal, holiday, hot, cold makes sense.
Okay. So what I'll do
Um,
is I'll call the goalie with, first of all, I'll say prompt, and then I'll give it the prompt that came in from the user, and then secondly I'll say map, and I'll give you the goal map with the IDs. So you'll need
right.
to include that in the system prompt. And
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
reason
Which is
I need
yeah.
to
Sorry.
do it like that is otherwise there'll be this other loop of calling the tool that does ls to be like,
Yeah.
what is the map now? But it's just better if I think it's better, at least in the start, if I just dump it in there
Yeah.
initially.
Yeah. If you look at Goalie Scott on the assistance, the structure I was looking for there is every time you ask for something, you've got the goal, you've got the sub goal, sub goal. It gives you the path and gives you 2 actions for each.
Yeah, right.
That, that certainly that on first blush seems to make sense.
Okay.
So and it allows the task switching as we went through. So if you start to talk about dogs and not date night or holidays,
Mm-hmm.
it's they can figure it out because I've told it what a goal is. So that system prompt seems to be pretty good.
All right.
I know you got to go. The next thing I'm going to do tonight is I'm going to try and refine buckets that I did last night.
Yep.
And try and get a set of canonical things it can do and things it can't do, so it understands what a bucket switch is.
Okay.
Is that the right thing to?
Look, I think so. I think so. I'm struggling a bit to connect the goaling back into the system in a way that doesn't leave a bunch of loose ends. So, I guess I think that's the right thing to do. So I'll make you this map, and I'll send it in with the prompt, and then I'll also set up the isolated session management so that when each goal comes out, when it's unique. Now, switching here, like if I go mountains, cold, hot, city, that's a whole new session, right? This is the session boundary. Hot is the session boundary.
I would say the session boundary is, if I'm talking about a city here, what I want to know.
These are actions, though. These are so that's the session boundary.
Yes,
right.
Sorry.
So this is a session
correct,
independent of this.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I will do the session splicing. I'm gonna make a special bot. I'm gonna make a special bot here called it's gonna be called the Echo bot, and that's just I need that just to be left alone because it's a shortcoming of the OpenAI API that I can't actually copy a system message across to another thread. I have to make an Echo bot, prompt it with the message, and then get that inserted. So it's sort of going to be a bit pants.
To do that.
Well, I don't know. Like, okay, but that's just how things are. All right, so that's cool. I'll get the splicing going, and then I guess we'll reconvene when I've got splicing going, and we can try and get the bot working with the goalie working with Hal to actually do some things.
Yeah. And next call, I'd love to talk about. So we've been talking about quite high level stuff here.
Yeah.
But CRM is, the trucking company.
Yeah. Yeah. So I did a demo for them yesterday, and it went amazingly well. So I was able to sort of show them how they could actually take some of the emails that they've received from customers, dump them into HAL as it is, and then have a reasonably okay response come back as it modified the system to suit, which was very easy to say, well, look, obviously I can hook emails up to the system once it gets going, and then at that point the emails will come in and they'll just turn up in the system like you just saw here. And then like, wow, like that's
brilliant.
That's pretty
Right.
amazing. And then being
Yeah.
able to do things like, okay, draft a welcome email to the customer back, right? And it's like da 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 da.
Yeah.
You know,
And it takes the thread of the emails that the customer is responding to and
yeah,
responds in a
in
language
kind,
that makes,
yeah. And so
yeah,
you can sort of, so they're pretty pumped.
yeah, cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay.
Are you, sorry, are you recording this?
Yes.
Can you stop the recording?